It often starts small, doesn't it? A comment that feels a little off, a meeting you weren't invited to, but probably should have been. Maybe it's the way your ideas are dismissed, almost before they leave your lips. Sarah remembers it clearly. She loved her job, poured her heart into it. Then, a new manager arrived. At first it was just a feeling, a subtle shift in the air. She told herself she was being too sensitive. It's just stress, she'd think. His stress, not mine. But the small things, they started to add up, like a slow, steady drip of water. Each one on its own seemed minor, but together they began to erode her confidence, her joy, and eventually her sense of self. That slow drip can become a flood before you even realize you're drowning. This isn't about a bad day or a tough project. This is about a pattern. It's about an environment that slowly, or sometimes quickly, makes you feel unsafe, unwelcome, or unwell. We spend so much of our lives at work. It's a place where we hope to contribute, to grow, to connect. When that place becomes a source of dread, the impact ripples through every part of our existence. It affects our sleep, our relationships, our health. Sarah started waking up with a knot in her stomach. The thought of walking into the office, of facing another day of subtle slights and overt criticisms became almost unbearable. She was living a true horror story, one that played out under fluorescent lights and amidst the hum of computers, a story many of us know too well. The horror isn't always loud and dramatic like in the movies. Sometimes it's quiet, it's insidious. It's the constant questioning of your competence, even when your track record is stellar. It's the isolation, the feeling of being on the outside looking in, even when you're sitting in the middle of the team. Sarah described it as feeling like she was behind an invisible pane of glass. She could see everyone, hear them, but she couldn't quite reach them, and they didn't seem to truly see her anymore. This kind of emotional and psychological siege is exhausting. It chips away at your spirit, making you doubt your perceptions and your worth. Recognizing this isn't weakness, it's the first brave step toward reclaiming your space and your peace. This essay is for anyone who has felt that dread, that knot in their stomach. It's for those who have been made to feel small, invisible, or crazy in the place they go to earn a living. We're going to talk about the hard stuff: bullying, gaslighting, discrimination. We'll share stories not to dwell in the darkness, but to shine a light on these common experiences. And most importantly, we'll talk about how to navigate these treacherous waters, how to find your footing, and how to move towards safety and healing. You are not alone in this. Your experience is real, and there is a path forward, a way to survive and even thrive after the storm. Workplace bullying isn't just about a boss yelling. Sometimes it is, but often it's far more subtle, more calculated. Think about Mark. He was a talented designer, passionate about his craft. His direct supervisor, however, seemed to take pleasure in undermining him at every turn. In team meetings, if Mark presented an idea, his supervisor would interrupt, pick it apart with unnecessary harshness, or attribute a similar, slightly tweaked idea to someone else moments later. His work was scrutinized to an impossible degree, while others received only cursory glances. Small errors, the kind everyone makes, were magnified and broadcast, creating a narrative that Mark was incompetent. This wasn't constructive criticism. This was a deliberate campaign to diminish him, to make him feel powerless and isolated from his colleagues. The bully in the office often operates with a chilling sort of precision. They might spread rumors, exclude you from crucial communications, or assign you impossible deadlines with insufficient resources, setting you up to fail. For Maria, a project manager, her bully was a colleague at the same level. This colleague would forget to share vital information, then act surprised when Maria's part of the project hit a snag. She'd make passive-aggressive comments in group emails, subtle enough that complaining might make Maria seem overly sensitive, yet pointed enough to sting and damage her reputation. This constant chipping away at her professional standing left Maria anxious and doubting her abilities, even though she had a history of successful projects. It's the adult version of the playground, but the stakes are so much higher. The impact of this kind of sustained torment is devastating. It's not just about feeling bad at work. It seeps into every corner of your life. Mark started losing sleep. He became irritable at home, his creativity stifled by the constant fear of criticism. He second-guessed every decision, every email he sent. Maria found herself dreading Mondays, her weekends consumed by anxiety about the week ahead. She started experiencing panic attacks before important presentations. This isn't just workplace drama, it's a serious assault on an individual's well-being, their mental health, and their ability to perform their job effectively. The bully aims to break your spirit, and the constant stress can lead to burnout, depression, and a host of physical health problems. Recognizing bullying is the first crucial step. It's not your fault. You didn't invite this behavior, and you don't deserve it. Bullies thrive on silence and self-doubt. They want you to believe you're the problem, but the problem lies with their behavior, their need to control, to diminish, to exert power over others in harmful ways. If you feel targeted, if there's a persistent pattern of demeaning, undermining, or isolating behavior directed at you, it's likely bullying. Acknowledging this reality is an act of courage. It's the moment you stop internalizing the abuse and start looking for a way to confront it, to protect yourself, and to reclaim your professional dignity. Gaslighting is a particularly insidious form of manipulation. It's when someone tries to make you doubt your own reality, your memory, your sanity. It's psychological abuse, plain and simple. Consider the story of David. He noticed his boss, Susan, would often change instructions or deny previous conversations. When David would bring up a past agreement, say about a project deadline or a resource allocation, Susan would look at him with feigned confusion and say, "I never said that," or "You must be mistaken, David. We discussed something entirely different." Over time, David started to question his own memory. Was he really getting things wrong so often? He began meticulously documenting every conversation, every email, just to keep his own version of reality straight. This denial of your experience is a hallmark of gaslighting. The gaslighter wants to control the narrative, and to do that, they need to make you believe their version of events over your own. They might twist your words or tell you that you're being too sensitive or overreacting when you express hurt or concern about their behavior. For instance, when Aisha confronted her manager about consistently being left out of important client meetings related to her projects, he told her, "You're reading too much into it, Aisha. It was just an oversight. You're always so emotional about these things." This not only dismissed her valid concern but also attacked her character, making her feel like her feelings were the problem, not his exclusionary actions. The emotional toll of gaslighting is immense. It creates a fog of confusion and self-doubt. Victims often feel anxious, disoriented, and deeply insecure. They might start to believe they are indeed losing their mind or are fundamentally flawed. David found himself constantly replaying conversations in his head, trying to pinpoint where he might have misunderstood. He became hesitant to speak up, to trust his own judgment. This erosion of self-trust is precisely what the gaslighter aims for. It makes you easier to control, less likely to challenge their behavior. It's a lonely and terrifying place to be, feeling like you can't even rely on your own perceptions of what is real and true. If you feel like you're constantly walking on eggshells, questioning your sanity, or being told your reality is wrong, you might be experiencing gaslighting. One of the most powerful things you can do is to start writing things down. Document conversations, dates, and specific phrases used. Share your experiences with a trusted friend, family member, or therapist who can offer an outside perspective and validate your feelings. Hearing someone else say, "No, that's not normal," or "Yes, that sounds like manipulation," can be incredibly affirming. Recognizing gaslighting for what it is, a deliberate tactic of abuse, is the first step in breaking free from its disorienting grip and starting to rebuild your trust in yourself. Discrimination in the workplace can be overt, but often it's more like an invisible fence, subtly but effectively limiting opportunities and creating a hostile environment. It can be based on age, gender, race, religion, disability, sexual orientation, or any other protected characteristic. Take Lena, a highly qualified engineer who consistently saw her male colleagues, sometimes with less experience, promoted ahead of her. When she inquired about advancement opportunities, she was told she wasn't aggressive enough for leadership, a coded critique often leveled at women. Her ideas in meetings were frequently ignored, only to be praised when suggested by a male peer moments later. These weren't isolated incidents, they formed a pattern that spoke volumes about the underlying biases within her company. The ways discrimination manifests are varied and deeply hurtful. It might be a pattern of hiring or promotion that consistently favors one demographic. It could be unequal pay for the same work. For Samuel, a black man in a predominantly white sales team, it was the constant microaggressions, the surprise expressed at his eloquence, the jokes about his culture or being mistaken for a junior employee despite his senior role. Individually, these might seem like small paper cuts, but collectively, they created an environment where he felt perpetually othered, his competence constantly under scrutiny simply because of his race. He felt he had to work twice as hard just to be seen as equally capable. The emotional and professional impact of discrimination is profound. It tells you that no matter how hard you work, no matter how talented you are, there are barriers in place that have nothing to do with your merit. Lena felt a growing sense of frustration and disillusionment. She loved her work but hated the feeling of being perpetually undervalued and overlooked. Samuel experienced heightened stress and a sense of alienation. This constant battle against unseen biases is exhausting. It can lead to disengagement from work, a loss of motivation, and a deep sense of injustice. It's not just about missing out on a promotion. It's about being denied the chance to reach your full potential. If you suspect you're facing discrimination, it's crucial to understand your rights and the resources available. Document every instance, dates, times, what happened, who was involved, and any witnesses. Note any patterns you observe. For example, are people from a certain group consistently given less desirable assignments or excluded from development opportunities? Familiarize yourself with your company's anti-discrimination policies and reporting procedures. Speaking up against discrimination takes immense courage, especially when you fear retaliation. But remember, you are not just fighting for yourself. You are fighting for a fairer, more equitable workplace for everyone. There are laws designed to protect you, and often, there are people willing to help. Section 5. Trust your gut. Heeding the early warning signs. Our bodies and our intuition often tell us when something is wrong long before our conscious minds fully process it. That persistent knot in your stomach before a Monday morning meeting, the sudden headaches that only appear during work hours, the feeling of dread that washes over you when a particular colleague approaches your desk. These aren't just random physical sensations or fleeting emotions. They are often important signals from your inner wisdom, your gut instinct, telling you that the environment you're in, or the interactions you're having, are not safe or healthy for you. Learning to listen to these subtle and sometimes not so subtle cues is a critical skill in navigating potentially toxic workplaces. Think back to Sarah from our earlier story. She initially dismissed her unease as being too sensitive. Many of us do this. We're conditioned to rationalize, to give people the benefit of the doubt, or to blame ourselves. But if you consistently feel anxious, devalued, or on edge at work, it's worth paying attention. Other early warning signs can include a noticeable change in team dynamics like increased gossip or cliques forming. Perhaps there's a lack of transparency from leadership, or a culture where mistakes are punished harshly rather than treated as learning opportunities. These elements can create a breeding ground for more serious issues like bullying, gaslighting, and discrimination to take root and flourish. It's also important to observe how others are treated. Do you see colleagues being unfairly criticized, isolated, or their contributions belittled? Even if it's not happening to you directly, witnessing such behavior is a significant red flag. A toxic environment rarely confines itself to just one target. It often indicates a broader cultural problem within the organization or team. Pay attention to high turnover rates, especially within specific departments or under certain managers. If people are constantly leaving, it might be a sign that something is fundamentally broken. Your observations of the wider environment can validate your personal feelings of unease and help you see the bigger picture. So, what do you do when your gut starts screaming? First, acknowledge the feeling, don't dismiss it. Start a private journal and note down specific incidents, feelings, and observations. This isn't about building a case immediately, but about honoring your experience and gathering data for your own understanding. Talk to a trusted friend or mentor outside of work to get an objective perspective. Sometimes just verbalizing your concerns can bring clarity. Trusting your gut doesn't mean jumping to conclusions, but it does mean taking your internal alarms seriously. It's an act of self-preservation, and often it's the first brave step towards protecting your well-being in a challenging environment. Section 6. Dare to speak. Finding your voice amidst the noise. Speaking up when you're experiencing or witnessing workplace toxicity is incredibly hard. Fear is a powerful silencer. Fear of retaliation, fear of not being believed, fear of being labeled a troublemaker, or fear of losing your job. These are all valid and very real concerns, but silence often allows the toxic behavior to continue, to escalate, and to harm more people. Finding your voice isn't about being confrontational or aggressive. It's about standing in your truth, setting boundaries, and advocating for a respectful environment. It's about choosing courage over comfort, even when your voice shakes and your heart pounds. This is a brave and necessary act. One of the first steps in finding your voice is to get clear on what you want to say and what outcome you desire. If you're dealing with a bully, for instance, you might decide to address a specific behavior directly. For example, if a colleague constantly interrupts you in meetings, you could say, "Excuse me, I wasn't finished speaking," or "I'd like to complete my thought." This requires practice and a calm, firm demeanor. Rehearse what you want to say. Sometimes a direct, calm statement can be surprisingly effective in stopping a specific behavior, as bullies often target those they perceive as unwilling to push back. Choose your moment carefully, perhaps addressing the person privately first, if you feel safe enough to do so. If direct confrontation feels too risky or isn't appropriate for the situation, especially in cases of severe bullying, gaslighting, or discrimination, finding your voice might mean speaking to someone who can help. This could be a trusted supervisor, if they are not the source of the problem, human resources, a union representative, or an external body. Before you do, prepare your thoughts. Be specific about the behaviors, the impact they've had on you, and what you've already tried to do, if anything. Having your documented notes, as we discussed earlier, will be invaluable here. Clearly state what resolution you are seeking. Do you want the behavior to stop? Do you need mediation? Are you reporting a policy violation? Clarity helps others understand how best to support you. Remember, finding your voice doesn't always mean a loud proclamation. Sometimes it's the quiet courage of documenting incidents meticulously. Sometimes it's seeking support from colleagues who may be experiencing similar things, building collective strength. Sometimes it's making the difficult decision to report the behavior through official channels, and sometimes it's deciding that the bravest thing you can do is to plan your exit from a truly unsalvageable situation. Whatever form it takes, using your voice is an affirmation of your worth and your right to be treated with dignity and respect. It's a journey, not a single event, and every small act of courage counts. Section 7. Building your shield, the power of proof and people. When you're facing a toxic work environment, feeling alone can be overwhelming, but you don't have to navigate this storm by yourself. One of the most powerful shields you can build is comprised of two key elements: meticulous documentation, proof, and a strong support network, people. These elements work together to protect you, validate your experiences, and provide you with the strength and resources needed to address the situation. Let's start with proof. In situations of bullying, gaslighting, or discrimination, your memory and feelings are valid, but concrete evidence can be crucial if you decide to take formal action or even just to understand the pattern yourself. Documentation means keeping a detailed, factual, and contemporaneous record of incidents. Write down dates, times, locations, and exactly what was said or done. Who was present? What was the context? How did it make you feel? And what was the impact on your work or well-being? Save any relevant emails, messages, or other written communications. If there were witnesses, note who they were. This record is not for dwelling on negativity, but for creating a clear, undeniable account of events. It helps counter gaslighting by affirming your reality, and it provides essential data if you need to report the behavior. Keep this log private and secure, perhaps in a personal journal or a file stored off company systems. The other crucial part of your shield is people. Isolation is a weapon used by those who create toxic environments. Connecting with trusted individuals can break that isolation and provide immense support. This network might include supportive colleagues who have witnessed the behavior or experienced it themselves. Sharing your experiences, discreetly and safely, can validate your feelings and sometimes lead to collective action. Outside of work, lean on friends, family, or a therapist. They can offer an objective perspective, emotional comfort, and practical advice without the complexities of workplace dynamics. Knowing you have people who believe you and have your back can make all the difference in your ability to cope and respond effectively. Building this shield takes time and intentional effort. It's about being proactive in protecting yourself. When you document, you are arming yourself with facts. When you connect with supportive people, you are reinforcing your emotional resilience and gaining allies. This combination can help you feel more empowered and less vulnerable. It shifts the balance, even if only slightly at first, giving you a stronger foundation from which to assess your options and decide on your next steps. Remember, you are not asking for too much by expecting a respectful workplace, and taking steps to protect yourself is a sign of strength, not weakness. Section 8. Navigating the labyrinth, reporting and seeking justice. Deciding to formally report workplace bullying, gaslighting, or discrimination is a significant step, and it's understandable to feel apprehensive. The process can often feel like navigating a labyrinth, full of twists, turns, and potential dead ends. Before you lodge a formal complaint, it's wise to understand your company's policies and procedures. Most organizations have an employee handbook or intranet site that outlines the steps for reporting misconduct, who to report to, usually HR or a designated manager, and what you can expect from the investigation process. Familiarize yourself with these guidelines thoroughly. Knowing the official path can help you prepare and manage your expectations. When you do decide to report, your meticulous documentation will be your most valuable asset. Present your information clearly, factually, and chronologically. Stick to observed behaviors and their impact, rather than emotional language or assumptions about intent, as tempting as that might be. Provide copies of any supporting evidence you have collected, such as emails or witness accounts, if witnesses are willing to come forward. Be prepared for the process to take time. Investigations can be lengthy, and you may not be privy to all the details due to confidentiality requirements. It's important to remain patient, but also to follow up appropriately if you don't receive updates within a reasonable time frame as outlined by policy. It's also crucial to understand the role of human resources. While HR is there to implement company policy, which often includes protecting employees from harassment and discrimination, their primary function is to protect the company. This doesn't mean they won't help you, but it's a reality to be aware of. In some cases, HR can be a powerful ally and facilitate a fair resolution. In others, especially if the issue involves senior management or if the company culture is deeply flawed, their response might be disappointing. This is why having your own support network and potentially seeking external advice, such as from an employment lawyer or a relevant government agency, like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in the U.S., can be so important. Regardless of the outcome of any formal reporting process, taking action can be empowering. It's about asserting your right to a safe and respectful workplace. Be prepared for various potential outcomes. The company might take corrective action, offer mediation, or in some unfortunate cases, the response might be inadequate. Throughout this process, prioritize your well-being. Continue to lean on your support system. If the situation becomes untenable or the reporting process causes more harm, remember that you have choices, including the choice to seek employment elsewhere. Seeking justice isn't just about the formal outcome. It's also about standing up for yourself and knowing you did what you could in a difficult situation. Section 9. Beyond the Scars. Reclaiming your story, rebuilding your strength. Surviving a toxic work environment is a battle, and like any battle, it can leave scars. These might be emotional, psychological, or even physical. The experience can shake your confidence, make you wary of new workplaces, and impact your overall sense of trust. It's so important to acknowledge this. Healing is not about forgetting what happened. It's about integrating the experience into your story in a way that no longer defines you or holds you captive. It's about recognizing the incredible strength it took to endure, to speak up, or to make the tough decision to leave. You are a survivor, and your resilience is a testament to your spirit. Reclaiming your story means taking back the narrative. For a time, the bully, the gaslighter, or the discriminatory system may have tried to define who you are: incompetent, too sensitive, not good enough. But that was their distorted lens, not your truth. Rebuilding your strength often involves consciously focusing on your positive attributes, your skills, and your accomplishments. It might mean seeking out environments and people who see and appreciate your true worth. Therapy or counseling can be incredibly beneficial during this phase, providing a safe space to process the trauma, rebuild self-esteem, and develop coping strategies for any lingering anxiety or triggers. One of the most powerful steps in healing is to reconnect with what brings you joy and a sense of purpose, both professionally and personally. Perhaps the toxic environment stifled your creativity or passion. Now is the time to rediscover those sparks. Engage in activities that make you feel capable and alive. If you've moved to a new job, give yourself grace as you navigate a new environment. It's okay to be cautious, but try to remain open to the possibility of a healthier, more supportive culture. Focus on building positive relationships with new colleagues. Every positive interaction helps to rewrite the old painful scripts. Ultimately, overcoming workplace horror stories is about more than just surviving. It's about learning, growing, and emerging stronger. You have gained wisdom, however painfully acquired. You now know more about red flags, about your own boundaries, and about your incredible capacity for resilience. Let this experience fuel your commitment to fostering respectful environments wherever you go. Share your story when you feel ready, not to dwell on the pain, but to offer hope and solidarity to others who might be struggling. Your journey beyond the scars can be a beacon, reminding us all that even after the darkest storms, it is possible to rebuild, to find peace, and to thrive once more.